Hey, what's up, internet? We've got a pretty important video for today. It is about the new helmet that drops from the Maven encounter, the Viridi Veil. Now, the big thing about this new helmet is that it can serve as a replacement for an Atziri's reflection, and not just like a mid-range step where eventually you're still going to want a reflection. It can just outright replace an Atziri's reflection forever, which is a good thing because right now this helm is pretty cheap. It's certainly way cheaper than a reflection. Right now they're going for about 10 chaos. It seems like the price is starting to climb as more people realize that this is actually a very good replacement for totem builds. But I also don't know as there's a lot of other builds that can afford to run this helmet, because the way this helmet works is that you are hexproof if you have a magic ring in your right hand slot. So there's a high price to pay to get this hexproof affix. However, we're already making a pretty high opportunity cost exchange by giving up a weapon slot for this reflection, because it doesn't do much other than all res and then give us that unaffected by curses, right? So we're already making a consideration like this. Most other builds don't have to pay quite as much of a price like that all in one slot. So I don't see it going up too far. It seems like one of her more common drops, and it's one of those fights where people are just going to kill more and more and more because it's part of the core expansion now. You know, people aren't really running Vol Temple that much to farm the cards. They might get lucky in Ritual, but this thing is always going to be rare and hard to get at League Start, whereas this, whoever runs to Maven the fastest on trade and gets this thing and chucks it up on trade, you know, there's going to be a much more direct and cheap route to getting into our primary scaling. Now, like I said, this thing gives you hexproof, which, although it's worded differently than the unaffected by curses on Atziri's reflection, for our purposes, it functions the same. You can see that we have this lock icon over our head, just like on any enemy that has hexproof. And some people, including me, before I got my hands on this helmet, was wondering if hexproof was actually going to get in the way of self-flagellation functioning. And luckily, it doesn't. It works exactly like it does on monsters, which is that the curse still applies to you, like the vulnerability from our belt is here. It just has zero effect. So for our purposes, it's literally the same affix as on Atziri's reflection. And even if we put the other ones up, you can see, you know, we have temporal chains, but we have no increased duration. We're not losing any resists. None of these curses are having any effect. And they are increasing our damage. As we see, my damage changes as they start to fall off. So this is literally an outright replacement for Atziri's at, right now, 10 chaos. It'll probably go up, I suspect, after I release this video and other people tell each other that, you know, how this works. Now, everything else on this helmet is decent, right? We have +1 to +2 of level of socketed gems. I don't currently have a strong use for that. I just have my regular frostbite set up in here. And I don't think that affix is going to be very important for us. If that changes, I'll put it into the guide, but for right now, I wouldn't worry about that roll. Other than if you do move your Arcane Surge Frostbite link up here, pay attention to the level, because it's going to get +1 or +2 levels, and then that mana cost is going to go up on the threshold. So if you're trying to make sure it stays within one cast, you might have to knock your Arcane Surge down a rank or two, right? It also gives us up to 25% elemental resistances, so it's really close to what Atziri's was giving you in the resist department. It's like 5 less. It also gives us damage of enemies hitting you as unlucky while you have a magic ring equipped, which we're fulfilling with this. So any enemies that hit us with a direct hit of any kind, they're going to roll their damage twice, and they're going to get the worst of those two options. So it's like a free defensive affix. Pretty handy. I would say that this is probably slightly better than the energy shield we were picking up. We were sitting at about, I was sitting anyway, about 1290. So we lose like 450 to 500 energy shield in this swap. But I think that affix will make up for it. And it's really just not that important because energy shield for us is not terribly useful. Now, to get this hexproof though, we do have to have a magic ring in our right slot. And I would say that the best option for that is a life ring. We're going to be giving up a life roll on the helmet that we otherwise would have had with a reflection. So we want to make that back. We don't want to be too low on HP, in my opinion. So I usually am going to grab either a Vermilion ring or a Coral ring, because ultimately they're going to be pretty close. I think Vermilion wins slightly here. And you can see I've got it qualityed with fertile catalysts for the 20% life and mana modifiers, which is going to affect the implicit and the tier 1 life roll, which is actually the important thing to get. I just rolled this with alts after I put the catalyst on, because that'll increase the odds of getting life rolls. You just want tier 1 life, and then if you have a suffix on there, you might have to try and annul it, or just do a B split, because a B split works on magic items. You can just get the tier 1 by itself, and then you just want to craft a suffix, I would say. I put Fire and Lightning on mine because I needed to fix my resists. I actually might be able to drop, now that I've added a little more fire resist, I'll probably go to Lightning Chaos here, just to get myself some more Chaos res. You can put all res here if you already have all of your resist. Like say you have even better gear than me, and your resists are handled without the ring. Still, you could put, cast speed or something, or you can get an influence version of this ring. And all of the curse on hit suffixes, or all the curse on hit affixes are suffix. So you could get Assassin's Mark on hit if you really wanted to be lazy, instead of applying Sniper's Mark after you have Whispers of Doom or something like that. But ultimately, it doesn't. The suffix is there to fix whatever's going on in your build when you're making the swap, like you would when you switch to an Atziri's Reflection. So resist for now. Later on, if I don't need the resist, maybe I'll try to get a damage affix here. It's not that important. It's really just about getting a tier 1 life roll and making sure you put the turbulent, or the fertile catalyst, excuse me, on here to get more life out of it. We actually wind up with more life doing this than I was getting out of a helmet. The other consideration is that typically we could get a helmet enchant, right? It's going to basically be impossible to get one of these things with a Freezing Pulse enchant. Honestly, my suggestion is just forget the enchant, use a second wand, and get projectile speed on it. You can get up to 46% on a tier 1. Our helmet was only giving us 30 to begin with, so you can actually get more projectile speed doing this than out of the helmet anyway. And it's kind of a small price to pay overall. Now, if we look at Path of Building, just so people understand how well this setup works, this was my heist character, modified for the 3.13 patch. As if you time traveled forward, I just made changes to fix, whatever wasn't working in the import. And he had 2.2 million per totem with flasks up and no vol skill. This is the Atziri's Reflection. He had a dual mod Watcher's Eye with Hatred Zealotry and 2 Essence Worms. So we had Hatred and Zealotry. We're getting 2.2, right? Now, if I make that same character and I just change what I was just talking about, I actually wind up with slightly more DPS and more life. The only thing I did, I gave him a dual Hatred Watcher's Eye because I can't run Zealotry anymore. My right ring is occupied. Even if I didn't do that, let's say I just gave him a 1 mod Watcher's Eye. The DPS is still very similar on a 1 mod Watcher's Eye. I basically duplicated his wand to try to keep the investment level the same, but I replaced one of the spell crit roll with projectile speed. Now that actually applied to both wands because they're the same wand, so the DPS here would probably actually be really similar if I had kept crit dispels on one of these wands, which is what I would want to do in the actual game. So even when we invest a lot of money into the build, we're hitting the same marks as we would with an Atziri's Reflection. It's possible you could say, well, if I wanted to invest so much, I could get a 3 mod Watcher's Eye, 2 Hatred, 1 Zealotry or something. Maybe you start to creep ahead. But the cost you're talking about is absurd, really. At this level of damage, we're clearing everything, right? Music is disappearing or live. Fortunate. But yeah, this setup is, I would argue, superior pretty much all the way through. I've never had a triple mod Watcher's Eye, not a relevant one. Maybe you have, maybe you've got that kind of currency. I don't care about that level of investment. This is already a ton of investment, and we're hitting the exact same marks. And like I said, it'll probably actually favor this helmet at lower levels, like where I'm at right now, this was actually like a pretty solid upgrade in damage because I was getting that wand back, and I couldn't run a second Essence Worm. I didn't have the life for that. So the exchange makes more sense at lower level, makes more sense at higher level around this gear, and it's going to be at least as good as a reflection even when you've got well over 100 exalts into the build. This is a great item for us right now. I highly recommend. This is going to go into the guide tomorrow. I wanted to get this video out so that people were aware that you don't need to be saving all of your currency to get into this reflection. You can literally just grab this helmet, grab a Vermilion ring or a coil ring, high enough level, roll it with tier 1 life, put some Fertile Catalyst on it, and suddenly you can go get a Coward's Legacy, you can get Pain Attunement, you can get an Essence Worm. You don't have to wait anymore. So the price of this build to get into this higher level of power, like we're less than a week in, my character is already doing 6 million DPS. You know, maybe that's not amazing by meta standards, but this is just such a boon, and easily the best addition I've found in 3.13 for this build. So just to show you, if we check trade, I'll refresh this, 9, 10, 10, 10, 15, 20 chaos. Any of these would work. You know, we compare that to an Atziri's reflection. It's not good. This opportunity cost is never going to make sense anymore. Because if you subtract the 30 chaos, you're still left with over 11 exalts here that could go into your character power. There's no chance that this competes anymore. Unless you're that one guy who has a triple mod Watcher's Eye and every other piece of gear, maybe you squeeze out a couple % more DPS. It doesn't make sense. This is the way to go. Get one for yourself if you're playing Freezing Pulse, or any Soul Mantle build, really. If you're doing a Soul Mantle, Self-Flagellation, and DI Totems, or whatever, this is the way, boys. So, if you have any more questions about how this setup works, you can leave them in the comments, or you can find me in the forum thread that I'll link below. Get your hands on one, get out there and start kicking the Atlas's butt, because this thing has made our lives a ton easier. Just to plug my stream, if you want to come by and see how the build's doing before you make any kind of investment, switch to this yourself. You can find me at twitch.tv/WallachTV. I'll probably still be doing League Start updates for at least a couple more videos. We're pretty close to cleaning up the Atlas. We've already killed some of the endgame stuff. Just about to finish up Awakener 8. Yeah. Go get the helmet. Have fun. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.